I'm glad to see so many people. Because of sun shining, all people want to be sleeping in this time. Yes, really, because it's good time for sleeping. Thank you very much for you working. I would like to present to you our thinking about subsurface cracking for steel in this version. And my presentation is about thinking how it can be that crack propagates without crack tip and with crack tip, because we've just discussed the problem plasticity, closure, if crack tip exists. But for the first step, subsurface cracking, there exists specific area of crack origination. First of all, I want to explain you our position for further analysis of aircraft structures. Now we introduced 3 scale levels for durability description of any materials. We looking in the direction of stressing material from nano or micro scale level for very low stress level. Then its range of stresses we consider it as well known now region of very high cycle fatigue, where cracking takes place subsurface. Then there exists, when we have transition through some range of stress level, there exists transition to the exosurface cracking, which is really high cycle fatigue, and then multiple crack site by the surface is significant about low cycle fatigue. This considering well known and introduced by Claude Bathias, and I will show you several examples of subsurface cracking that have been prepared in cooperation with Claude Bathias and his students, and also I will show you results, very interesting, in my opinion, very unique, that have been prepared by Tatsuo Sakai, who investigated very thin layer subsurface where crack originates. That's why the mechanism which reflects these results will be introduced by myself and will be discussed. For the first part of my presentation, it is part of which announced crack propagation without crack tip, and or cracking without crack tip. And then I will discuss second step of cracking subsurface, when I will try to discuss with you a model how it can be described in the simple form, especially applicable to failure analysis of aircraft, because as you know, well, after incident we have only reaction material which reflect sensitiveness materials under cyclic loads of different kind, and we can see fracture surface. By the fracture surface we have enough information that can be reproduced to estimate, in this case, crack growth period. I will show you how we think it can be done. Well, first of all, several words about well-known models for subsurface cracking for the first stage, as I say, without crack tip. ODA, well-known model, optically dark area, that have been produced by Yukitaka Murakami. It's a well-known model which explains first step of cracking because of hydrogen influence, which trapped inclusion, and then under influence of hydrogen there can be seen specific vivid surface. But based on this model, we cannot explain many experience. I will show you, for instance, when crack starts without inclusion, but with the same area formation. So it's not really only hydrogen which influenced this first step of material cracking subsurface. It's specific area formation which named, following by Tatsuo Sakai, fine granular area. I will show you. This is inclusion as a center, and area around inclusion with very small size of specific features which named fine granular area. Then I will show you subsurface state of this area. You will see that it's very interesting, not only because of we used it for our investigation. Next, thinking is about polygonization. Following Tatsuo Sakai, it was knowledge introduced about possible formation of this fine granular area. But polygonization is well-known phenomenon for volume of material, but not with border for specific area which reproduced around or within the inclusion area. That's why polygonization is another process that can be considered, but not for fine granular forming, because big grain and fine grain, it's principal difference in modification shape of grains, and not possible to use this idea for explaining fine granular area formation. Another model, Shozawa, with co-author, was introduced because of very interesting for me, considering by the fracture surface line high level of carbon in steel than out of this area, much more than usually exists in material. So, based on this, he introduced very interesting considering, because of there exist carbides of spherical shape, maybe cracking takes place because of, you can see through the toneric microscope shape of this by the version of Shozawa carbides, and by the gray boundary of carbides there can be seen fracture surface forming. But I should give you very attentive possibility to think that there is principal difference, in maybe 10 times, in shape of these spherical specific features. It cannot be so big difference in carbide, and I will show you our thinking about this, why it is big difference in shape, in size of this spherically shaped features, and I will show you why we think about there is high level of carbide, in spite of the same situation can be seen when material without carbides in the center where crack originates. So there is several models, each of them contradicted with some of results that now we have because of many tests that have been prepared by Japanese, French, and another person in many countries in steel. We try to compare different looking and to link all results in one idea that I will discuss with you. First of all, you can see a result of Shozawa, vicinity of this area of fine granular area around the inclusion with high level of carbon. But if we will see the same situation but for higher level of stress, there will be seen there are not area of fine granular around inclusion, but by the border of inclusion, and in these specific steps you can also see high level of carbon. Please look, this is two-step, and you can see also high level of carbon. So it's not, in this case, really inclusion with high level of carbon. It's specific state that can be seen because of some propagation, some initiation, specific mechanism which influence carbon diffusion inside of crack tip. It's a well-known model that has been announced earlier by Gorsky, for instance, which explains this effect. Because in the composition carbon and ferrum, carbon has bigger size atom than ferrum. If there will be bigger volume, in bigger volume, diffusion preferably of carbon in spite of ferrum. That's why if there will be small area of crack appearing free surface, there will be diffusion carbon inside of this area. That's why if there will be looking higher level of carbon, it's reflect of small area with higher volume where diffusion carbon exists only. So, based on the knowledge, there is cannot be explained by following by Shozava that carbon exists only because by the surface of fracture surface because of carbides in material. And also, I've just announced this is data that have been discovered in cooperation with Claude Bathias. You can see area fine granular in steel, high strength steel, but without inclusion, with strongly expressed border around this fine granular area. So it's specific mechanism for material, but not intervention of inclusion because of, for instance, stress concentrated. Blah, 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 summarizing our considering for different mechanisms that have been introduced and thinking about our knowledge, how it really can be seen. Also, I should say about some words about first smooth facet. This mechanism also exists, but not especially for steel, sometimes can be seen. We discussed it 2 years ago and published our model because of rotation process. To realize in material start of crack, there should be, first of all, introduced stress concentration. This stress concentration, as we know, for instance, grain boundary, for instance, boundary of inclusion. But if there is no, for instance, for titanium alloy, for instance, in the case that I just before show you, for this case without inclusion, there should be, first of all, self-organized process takes place which prepared material for weakness. By the border of this area of weakness will be exist enough stress concentration for then crack propagation. So this is area without crack tip, but with specific weakness of material. Following Untitled, we can see he prepared, this is 2 fracture surfaces for the one specimen, 2 parts of specimen with fracture surfaces, and they were prepared in the same area, slices, and we can see area of FG, sub-area of G, material state, with the same fine granular material that exists by the fracture surface. There is not the same in-depth area with the same fine granular particles, but really there exists subsurface for fine granular area, sub-fracture surface. Also the same particles. Principal difference between material grains and this particle absolutely evident. So he prepared X-ray analysis which shows that its reflection that directed to estimate state of this fine granular area really is nanograins, because these reflections reflect nanograin state. In many cases, in many investigations, it was shown that for material with nanograins, there exists absolutely the same diagram which reflect this state of material. So, for higher magnification, you can see number of particles sub-fracture surface in area of fine granular. So, our thinking is next. Several years ago in Russia, following by a new way of investigation, physical mesomechanics, there was introduced explanation for nanograin formation based on the model of particle disclination dipole moving. This model gives possibility to explain that in the case of hydrostatic pressure, there exists relaxation of high intensity of stress state material because of transformation, the followed partially disclinations, which directed to form nanograins. In our case, in very high cycle fatigue, under low level of stress, but during long time and high frequency, there exists always state when during unloading portion of cycle there exists hydrostatic pressure which directed to critical state when spontaneously realizes process of ultra high plasticity when nanograin form. Nanograins form. Area where this process can be realized, controlled critical value of KTH, K threshold for material. It was shown by Tuementzev. So, our consideration. Crack appeared and crack grows not in half a cycle uploading, but unloading portion of cyclic loads. In this case, dominated pressing of material. As a result, there can be different type of material rotation in area of crack origination. And subsurface, this specific state directed to realize area of weakened material because of ultra high plasticity with nanograin formation. And then around this area we can see, as usually known situation, with plastic zone formation, because there exists stress concentration. So, first step, without crack tip. Under pressing, in the hydrostatic case, there forms area of nanograin. Out of this area, for instance, as exists inclusion, we can see, out of this area, we can see crack propagation. There is clear fine granular area, and this is, as usually we can see by the fractography, following from the fractographic analysis, fracture surface, as we usually see for through crack, not for subsurface crack. And at the tip of this area, nanograin volume, there forms plastic zone. After some weakness, which will be subsurface of material. And when this plastic zone will appear and grows, then will be crack start and growth, as we know, as usually we discuss for through crack. The question is how this area, fine granular area, appeared. Because I've just said weakness, but not fracture. Weakness for stress concentration introducing. We can see, maybe not see exactly, but as usually say, believe me, there exist many spherical particles. Many years ago, we discussed the problem of spherical particle formation on the fracture surface because of huge contact in pressing and sliding. There exists possibility in material rotation and then possibility to fall surface fracture by the grain of this nanostructure. So, following this model, we can explain appearing fine granular area by the next manner. First step, ultra high plasticity, material weakness in thin area, with nanograin formation. Then, by the nanograin formation, then by the border of nanograin, there exists rotation of particles or nanograin, and forming the fracture surface in this area. This is not a periodically situation with fracture surface forming. That's why cannot be say we can estimate crack front, and so cannot be, in my opinion, say that we have possibility to say that there exists crack tip. There exist maybe several areas which then links to prepare all surface without well-known process, crack tip moving or crack increment, if we know for through crack. Next step, crack propagates. How it can be estimate the number of cycles without knowledge about material property? First of all, you know, now exist, introduced Paris and Bathias, well-known estimation crack growth. There is three, for me, principal ideas. One of them is B, Burgers vector, which reflect distance between one lattice. There is introduced knowledge about quant of fracture for materials. This is one lattice. Sorry, but 25 years ago, in our country, we discussed very intensively this problem and show that it cannot be one lattice. For steel, it's two lattice minimum distance of cracking, which has been named quant of cracking. For aluminum alloy, it's 5 lattice distance. For another material, another one. So it should be introduced not B, but NB, and independence from the kind of material. Another situation is for so small crack propagation rate, there exist inhomogeneities of crack propagation. There exist strongly discovered levels of crack growth rate. Also, we discussed this problem, sorry, many years ago, and I will show you small extract of our results using, for instance, specific method of shape estimation in scanning electron microscopy. These papers have been published 20 years ago in scanning electron microscopy in America. We can see that there exists strongly expressed level of crack growth rate. There is information about fatigue stration spacing estimation, but the same was done by the crack growth estimation by the surface, which reflect in specific reaction material, not uniformly on the external learning. This delta is constant for material, is different for different base of material, aluminium, ferrite, etc. So this, 2 minutes only. Thank you. So there can be clear seen. This reaction is reflect well-known results that have been established by Bell. He said, for infinitesimal deformation, we have very lower stress levels, so we have very low deformation level. There is no exist elastic modulus. There is this quantum process of elastic model forming if there will be step-by-step increased stress. Crack growth rate specific jumping reflect, in my opinion, this established well-known rule. 4 databases that have been used by Paris, I can show you this level of quantum of fracture for steel with line plot N2, and also for aluminium alloy with 5N. So, as a result, we should consider it the equation in this very, very complicated form, especially because we have not knowledge about environmental subsurface. Just before was very intensive discussion about cracking with environmental influence, but subsurface, there is no knowledge now about really state of art, state of material for inside. So it should be introduced some corrections for influencing subsurface cracking because of specific environment for subsurface. This dramatic situation can be realized in another way. If we will consider it well-known Paris law with slope 2, I've just shown you that it's clear, and we introduce it quantum fracture for delta kth. As a result, we can see that there is very simple equation that can be used for practice, where there exists ratio between delta k effective th and delta k effective. For circle crack, there can be introduced well-known equation for mechanical, and as a result, we can see crack growth estimation in a very simple form. We should know only for material quantum fracture. Then, if we will have fracture surface, we can measure area of fine granular area and critical state, critical length for crack, and calculate number of cycles. That's all. Thank you very much.